Brad groaned as the sunlight pierced through the blinds, assaulting his tired eyes. He tried to recall the events of the previous night, but his memory was hazy at best. Slowly, he sat up in bed, feeling the pounding headache that throbbed in his temples. As he glanced around the room, he realized he wasn't in his own dorm. The walls were adorned with posters of rock bands, and empty beer cans littered the floor. It didn't take long for Brad to realize he had somehow ended up in the fraternity house after a wild party. His mind raced, desperately trying to piece together the fragments of the night. He remembered the booming music, the laughter, and the endless stream of red plastic cups. But the rest was a blur. Panic began to settle in as he wondered how he had ended up in this unfamiliar room. Brad searched for his phone, hoping it could provide some clues. After a few minutes of frantic searching, he finally found it buried beneath a pile of clothes on the floor. The screen displayed a series of missed calls and texts from his worried friends and family. He quickly dialed his best friend, Jake's number, praying for some answers. "Hey, Brad, where the heck are you? We've been trying to reach you all morning." Jake's voice came through the phone, filled with concern. I don't know, man. I woke up in the fraternity house. I can't remember anything after the party started," Brad replied, his voice trembling. Jake let out a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness you're okay. We were worried sick. Listen, I'll be right over to pick you up. Just stay put." Brad hung up the phone, feeling a mix of relief and embarrassment. How had he allowed himself to get into such a situation? He knew he had been under a lot of stress lately, with final exams and the uncertainty of his future after graduation looming over him. But this was a new low. As he waited for Jake, Brad took a moment to reflect on his choices. He had always been a responsible student, but lately, he had been losing himself in the college party scene. Perhaps it was time for a change. He needed to regain control of his life and make better decisions. When Jake arrived, Brad was ready to leave the fraternity house and put this nightmarish experience behind him. As they drove back to their dorm, Brad made a silent promise to himself. He would focus on his studies, surround himself with positive influences, and never allow himself to be consumed by the allure of wild parties again. Over the next few weeks, Brad worked hard to catch up on his studies and rebuild the trust he had lost with his friends and family. He attended study groups, sought guidance from professors, and even joined a club that aligned with his interests. With each passing day, he felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. As graduation day approached, Brad had transformed into a changed man. He had not only caught up on his academics but had also rediscovered the joy of learning. He had learned that it was okay to have fun but to do so responsibly and without losing sight of his goals. On the day of his graduation, Brad stood tall, wearing his cap and gown. His family and friends cheered as he walked across the stage, receiving his diploma. As he looked out into the crowd, he spotted Jake, who had been there for him through thick and thin. After the ceremony, Brad and Jake embraced, their smiles shining with pride and relief. They had come a long way since that fateful fraternity party. Brad was grateful for the wake-up call that had led him to rediscover his true potential. As they walked away from the ceremony, ready to face the world beyond college, Brad knew that he would never forget that night. It had been a turning point in his life, reminding him of the importance of balance, self-discipline, and the power of personal growth.